Okay, we are back like we never left. This is episode 3 of the Small Cap Review. I will go ahead and start with WISA. Definitely recorded a touch early yesterday as we missed most of this move. I was looking at it here during the recap saying, hey, maybe it had room to go up, fill this gap up here. Um, it did not have eyes for that gap. It had eyes for the above gap. So um, we got the almost a touch of the gap, and then this morning in pre-market kind of finished off what it couldn't yesterday. It fills the gap. Um, this one, I mean, usually for day two shorts, you would like a little bit more room between where it opens and the high of the previous day. Here was about 20%, and obviously that played out nicely, and we got some more follow through. Um, but this one was kind of hands off either side for me this morning. I had a little bit of focus elsewhere, but just wanted to start on this one. Um, and something that I've been thinking about recently is, how to stay in a trade or, the best way to make sure that you're getting at least a piece of the move. I'm definitely not a big indicator guy, but in this case and in many cases, I use 2-minute candlesticks, and the 8-minute EMA is in the green and the 21 is in the red. Um, on strong moves that are moving upwards, these things are not going to be crossing back down. So just riding the 8, maybe a couple touches off the 21, you get 1, you get 2, and then on this third one is where you kind of get that weakness. Um, so just trying to leave a piece on, don't be afraid to give back profits. Um, you know, you're never going to catch you're never going to catch a multi-100% move if you're selling at first 100% at your first price target. So just something that I'm personally working on, and um, something I'll continue to work on. You did get a nice play. Oh no, hotkey's not working. You did get a decent little play here to the short side, kind of wrong time of the day. Draw the fibs out, wants to fail, 61 to 78 fib, and back down. So kind of a classic setup on the short side if you are into playing the crazy names. Um, but you had to be a good boy or girl to not jump in early, be too eager, and you would have definitely gotten chopped up here on the front side. So let's move on to some of the moves today. I'll start with what I know best because I traded it, a little PLCE. Now, this one actually reminded me of WISA in terms of the daily chart. So let's take a look. I'll make this big for us. When the stock is opening here, all-time lows not so far away, clear daily zone right here. It just does not have a ton of room to fade. This was a name that also had high insider buying and high institutional ownership on it. So between the daily chart, some of the fundamental information, and the range that I thought that it would have, again, kind of going from this daily zone up to the pre-market highs, you get that 20% that I'm looking for. So I was in from the start on this one. I actually bought here right about 930s. I think maybe it was 940. Um, after I saw this initial dip into the zone and setting the stop at the low of day. And actually right here where you get this big spike up, rejected, um, but then it gets absorbed back in that zone. So really after this candle here, this 940 to 942 candle, I felt pretty confident that these highs were going to get taken out, and we're probably going to touch these pre-market highs. So um, when you get, best moves to the long side are failed moves to the downside, and the best moves to the downside are failed moves to the upside. So once you see this absorption, um, this dip off of VWAP, I'm feeling good. Easy ride off the 8 EMA, and then I was taking some off as I usually do. Excuse me. Above the pre-market highs. So took a chunk on this. I think I got faked out a little bit here. sold a little bit more up here, and then had a last piece that, with WISA in mind, I said, all right, I'm not selling this until we really get a breakdown. So once we get this move off of VWAP, I'm not wanting the price really to go lower than that. So I think I had to stop for my last piece somewhere a little bit under 10 to try to play that whole dollar. Got stopped out, but still a pretty decent trade for me. Got, probably 80% off, above 20% gains. So pretty happy camper on that name. Um, yeah, and then let's move on to another one here. EDBL. Man, similar thought. This was one that I had on the short list in pre-market as well. Um, and the daily structure should look pretty familiar. Coming off of these all-time lows, not a big gap up. I think the gap up was, well, we'll say for sure, 34%. So not quite to that, for me, 40% is usually what I'm looking at when I'm shorting. So below that, I find is a lot of times more optimal for moves that are a little bit more under the radar, like we talked about yesterday. The more quiet moves can be the best ones. So um, daily chart was again interesting to me here. Um, I did see right off the open where this tried to make a move up and halted down. Um, and mistake on my part, I got too caught up in the trade that I was in, which I guess is not necessarily a bad thing, but in this case, missed out on a good opportunity here. Because when it halts down off the open, if you get that absorption like we got here, we got back above the previous high a day. We got up, and actually it even halted up here. So really a quick move up to about 50% of the value lost here. So Trade the Matrix has a great blog. If you are not familiar, highly recommend checking him out. Again, Trade the Matrix. He's on Twitter and he has a website. And he talks about when you get this big move down, if you get a move that quickly, and the key is quickly, takes back about 50% of that loss, you have a very good chance that you get the rest of it as well. And obviously in this case, we got a lot more than just the rest of it. So out of this halt up, immediate halt up, immediate halt up. A little bit more games on this one, but another halt up, another halt up. So um, would have been hard to mess this one up um, if you did join above that previous high of day. So the lesson I'm taking from this one, when you get that halt down out of open um, on a name that's not super overextended, nothing like that. When you get that halt move down, keep it on radar. Just see what the price action looks like when it resumes, see if it soaks, and see if it can make that move higher. And then, like we'll see later on INVO, nice bounce off of VWAP here to get another move. And then another very classic short setup. Draw the fibs, high a day. There we go. 61 to 78 fib. Great risk reward. And you get this move all the way back down. So plenty to play on both sides. Good name to study, whether you're long, whether you're short, even if you're not typically playing one side or the other. Um, just good to look for the clues here, recognize the pattern, take your screenshots, and be ready next time you see a move like that. So let's go, since we mentioned it, let's just do INVO. Now this is kind of like today's version of PALI from yesterday, where we get the top gapper, we get this flagging into open, but still above VWAP, and then this time it is a stronger move than what we got yesterday. We take out those pre-market highs, we halt up, and this is interesting. We go right to this previous high day, and actually we'll go back on the chart. What day was this? October 23rd. Let's go back there. 1023. And we'll see how we got this big zone, just this high day, this kind of consolidation before the dump. So easy to draw that out there. And it also comes into play with this gap fill level and another daily level here. So tons and tons of reasons to believe that there's going to be some selling going on up here at these levels. And so if we go back, excuse me, to today, that is exactly what we get out of the halt up. Repeated touches in the zone right to that gap fill level, and then a sell off. And then, I mean, talk about a beautiful candle. Look at this right here. Below and above VWAP, nice hammer candle. Um, don't really get that elevated volume. You know, maybe if it had something closer to this 2 million volume, it would stand out more. But even so, if you're being patient for this play, maybe you missed this move up, you want to see if there's still a chance to play it, um, just be patient. You get this zone, you get this bottom of the gap fill, waiting for a trigger to enter this nice move, and now you have a very clear risk. I mean, even if you are not the fastest to the party, say you're waiting for this like break of the candle high, something like this, yeah, you're risking 9%. Goal to get back above the highs, 23%, so you're looking at over 2 to 1 risk reward, end up getting closer to 4 or 5 to 1 risk reward on that. So VWAP, always love it. That's, like I said, not a big indicator guy, but VWAP is going to be on my charts until I'm done trading, which I don't think is going to be anytime soon. So um, great move here. A little bit of a shelf and failed follow through type situation coming through on this one. Um, But with it being the top gapper, I'm usually not super interested in those names, at least not going to, be doing something like playing this thing right off the open. I'm not going to be, I don't have like a break the first candle high strategy for or anything like that. Only trade on it for me would have been seeing this soak on VWAP and getting this move up. Let's see. And then we can go, actually, let's take a look at PALI real quick because this was another name with some action. All right, day two name. Like I said, if just so we can kind of look, um, you get that top gapper. This actually wasn't exactly like I remembered. It actually was spiking a little bit from the flag into open. But what we got after this clear short move here that we talked about, we get the backside clear out, and we go back to that target that was pointed out yesterday. These 542s, most obvious level on the chart. You can blow it up real quick. Back to this 542 level down here. Holy smokes, let's blow this up. Scroll. Obvious level here. Right back to it. So when a stock goes all the way back to this most obvious level, yeah, sure, it has more room to go down, more pivots it could play off of down here. But it's not always going to do that. Sometimes, it gets it out of its system, gets all the fade that it needs to do done. You could draw this nice little zone here that I have going off of this area from the end of the day where you get these spikes up into it. And then in after hours, you kind of get a hold of this level and some more respect as it's kind of playing around it in the pre-market as well. And then at open, you get a dip right into that zone, and game is on. It actually opened above VWAP. It gets back above, gives it a tap, and we're ready to go from there. Volume is very light, so something you definitely have to be cautious of. But in the end, you get a pretty straightforward move, including this flag here, um, all the way up 30%. And it actually, funny enough, you get it right above the backside clear out. We get a clear out of the backside clear out on this name. And then actually a really nice short opportunity, depending on your size. You kind of have to have baby size to be able to play this with any sort of confidence or safety at all. But just again, 61, 78 fib lining up with these daily levels. Beautiful place to short and get this fade back down. So not a ton of room, a little room to the downside like we initially said, but um, I would not play this on the short side just due to lack of volume. I mean, these 2-minute candles have nothing. I mean, 2,000, 7,000, 1,000, 500. So um, again, can't be doing that with a lot of size. So be careful there. And the last name that I want to go over today is SPEC. Now, the tragic news was I was taking a trader nap while this whole thing got busy. So I had to come back and do some review, take a look at this, and do a little hindsight analysis. But definitely some things to be learned here. So this one had about an 11% gap going into the morning from these lows. But we do see it's kind of a building daily. I mean, the early stages of it. This is day 3. I guess technically, since we didn't break highs or lows, this is an inside bar type of play here, um, with plenty of levels above. Tiny gap. Here's another gap here that I don't have drawn out. So lots of levels above, but grinding price action, which is, kind of when you're on the short side, that's the last thing you want to see. So when you're on the long side, you love to see it. So a couple things here that we can take a note. Just easy enough. Anyone can do it. Draw out these pre-market lows, these pre-market highs. You also get this clear daily zone that lines up with it. So um, if you're sitting here, maybe it gets on your radar when it does this high day and stuff move, and you're looking at it, you're saying, okay, what kind of range can we get out of this thing? You get this consolidation. You're like, all right, we can get like 50% plus. So definitely one to have eyes on, excuse me, and one to keep on radar. So what I'm looking for here, you get this stuff move, but then you get the absorption. Just like PLCE, when you get the stuff, but no follow through to the downside, and really in this case, no room to the downside. I mean, again, what is this going to do? Is it going to, top out here and then come back down and, you know, it just doesn't have much room down there. It's got pivots, I mean, it's just probably not going to happen that way. So when you get the stuff, you get the absorption, there's not much room for it to go down. Okay, now we could mean business. So you do get a couple more tabs, a couple more wicks into this daily gap that get rejected, but again, more soaking. So a little bit tricky on the price action, but once you get above a buck, it's kind of anything can go, especially since it's the second time in the zone. Probably some shorts that, got tied up in here, 750,000 shares on this candle. So you kind of get this little tight 3-bar play in here and a bounce off of VWAP. So there's a lot of ways that you could play it, but as we spoke about before, EMAs as your guide. Try to get good entry. I mean, ideal entry here. Of course, you can always do this after the fact, but great entry here. You have VWAP. You have this daily level below. You have these pivots. A lot of reasons that, a lot of confluence here. A lot of confluence and clear stops. So you can get in here and you're capturing, can't even fit it on the screen. Wow. More I look at this, more sad I am that I was taking a nap. Expensive nap. Over 100% move from that clear entry point. So won't sit here and act like I would have held the whole thing the whole time, especially with this pre-market high lining up with this daily zone, with individual daily pivots in there as well. With this crazy action pre-market, I don't even know what was going on with these candles, but you do get, these taps into it. Still, EMAs hold, not even going below the 21 after they get pulled up, and a nice bounce on top of it. So even here, super late to the party, obviously a riskier play, but you have this beautiful bounce here, and you can have eyes for that gap fill, and that's still 63% plus. So there was a ton of action in small caps this morning, long, short, either way. Hope that you guys caught a piece of it. Hope you've been enjoying the recaps. I'll go ahead and wrap this one up here. pretty consistent on this 20-minute thing, even when we're not trying. But um, if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to talk about, please leave a comment, and I will be looking forward to it. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Happy trading.